Hi everybody, welcome to the Menschik Club. It's been a few days since I've posted any content on the site, but I wanted to start back up again with a discussion of one of my favorite study composers, the Belgian composer Julien Vandiest. Besides wonderful studies that he composed, he was a very interesting guy. He's a philosopher. He was a columnist, wrote very prolifically, and he was an over-the-board player too. He played in quite a few Belgian championships, among other things, but he always said he wasn't really competitive enough to be an over-the-board player. So he really enjoyed composing more than he enjoyed playing, although he did do both. Um, so he was also a survivor of Auschwitz. He was in the resistance during World War II, and he was in Auschwitz for a year and a half before he was released. Um, so he was known for studies where uh, it was queens on the board and very reduced material. That seems to be his hallmark. And of course, he did all kinds of material balances too, but this was sort of his specialty. And especially positions with very few pawns, if any, on the board. So he would take these positions that looked like they ought to be a complete draw and find all sorts of winning possibilities in them. And one of his favorites was queen and bishop versus queen. So here we have a position where black's king is a little exposed, but it looks like black ought to draw pretty comfortably if you were just to glance at the position. Black has two pawns, two passed pawns, one of which is on the verge of queening. And even if black lost both of those pawns, it looks like it should be fairly easy to draw. But it's actually not. It's white to play and win. I'll give you a chance to pause your video and think while I take a sip of water. So the solution starts out with this discovered check, bishop c4 check. And black now has three possibilities. The first is king to c6. And in reply to this, white has queen to b7 check. If king to d6, then we just get queen to c7 mate, which is a very pretty checkmate. Now, if instead king to c5, we'll actually transpose back into the main line of the study, which starts queen to b5 check. So I'll save going over that for later. Instead, black tries king to a5. And after queen a2 check, king b4, queen b3 check, we get another echo of that same checkmate if black plays the move king to a5. White will simply play queen a3 check. This forces king b6. And then we have a mate in 2, which is also very pretty. Slightly different than the other one, but similar. So after queen b3 check, the only other choice is king c5, and this gets back into the main line we looked at before. So queen b5 check. Now here black has two choices. He has either king to d6 or king to d4. King to d4 would be the main line. And now after queen takes h5, we get queen. Now just to go back, king to d6 is just allowing queen takes queen, and then black queens. And we're actually going to transpose back into the line that is the main line of the game. So we'll see this later. So after king to d4, we now get queen takes h5, black queens, queen to d5 check. And this is another common theme in Vandiest's studies, that the minor piece serves as an anchor to allow the queen to chase the king around the minor piece. So black plays king to c3, and this is the only move because king to e3 actually allows white to just play queen c5 check, and now the queen is x-rayed and black will lose. So after king to c3, we get queen to d3 check. There are now a bunch of branches. King to b4 is the main line, but if king to b2, this actually loses pretty quickly. Queen d2 check. And now if king a1, we have queen a2 mate. And if king a3, then we get queen c3 check, king a4, and it's mate in 2. And finally, if king to b1, we get queen a2 check, king c1, and now we get a different x-ray attack. And these kinds of geometric themes are really things that Vandiest loved to exploit in his studies. So after king b4, we get queen b3 check. Now obviously you can't play king a5 because we get again queen b5 mate. So now white plays queen b5 check. Now we have a third possible x-ray, which is king to d4, queen to b6 check. Once again, now it's on the diagonal. So king to d6 is the only move, and this is the variation that we were looking at before it's transposed. So now queen to d5 check, king e7, queen e6 check. Obviously, you can't play king f8 because you walk right into mate. So black has no choice but to play king d8. And now white has queen d6 check. After king e8, this might be a good place to pause and just see if you can find the star move for white. And this is another common theme in Vandiest's studies with queen and bishop versus queen and queen and knight versus queen, namely quiet king moves at the right moment. So king to c8, and now the threat is to play queen d8 mate because f7 is covered and e7 is covered. And you'll notice that black doesn't have any checks other than one, which is queen g4 check. And after bishop e6, black is just out of checks and has to defend the d8 square, and can only do that by queen g5 check, queen d7 check, and queen f7 mate. So this is a very pretty position, and very typical of his queen and bishop versus queen studies. Next time, we're going to look at a study with just queens on the board, and hope you enjoyed that. Until next time, thanks.